Dear friends, English literature, Introduction to Drama, The Lion and the Jewel by Ol Shwenka. Short questions with answers. Short questions 16 to 20. Question 16. How does Beroka declare his importance? Answer. When Beroka hears the news from Sadiko that Sidi has rejected his proposal of marriage on the grounds that he is much too old for her, he is enraged. He asks Sadiko if any of his wives has reported his losing of manhood. He boasts of his physical strength and capability of having sex. In sexual intercourse, he says the sexual desire of the strongest of his wives will be satisfied long before his own. Sidi is a young girl with no knowledge of the sexability of an old man. He wants to teach her a lesson if he gets a chance. If he is given a chance, he will show her how sexually active he is. But Beroka then controls his temper and takes shelter of a clever trick. He tells Sadiko that he has lost his manhood and he has discovered it about a week ago. He repents that he has grown feeble at the age of 62, while his grandfather fathered two sons at 65, and his father Okiki produced female twins at 67. Thus Beroka pretends that he has lost his manhood and requests Sadiko not to reveal it. Beroka wants to publicize his false importance so that he can trap Sidi. Question 17. Describe Sadiko's victory dance. Answer. Sadiko's victory dance is a solo performed alone, performed around the carving of the pale Beroka. After Beroka confides in her that he has lost his manhood, Sadiko gloats over it. She goes to the village center with a carved figure of Beroka and places it in front of the tree. Looking at the figure, she bursts into laughter. At this moment, she remembers the importance of Beroka's father, Okiki, who was her first husband. Sadiko was the last wife of Okiki. When he married her, she was the youngest and freshest of his wives. But he could not consummate the marriage because he was sexually inactive at that time. When she invited him to have sex with her, he came at her like a snake, but being failed to have sex with her, he went back in shame like a rag. Like that father, Beroka is now important, as he tells Sadiko. Sadiko takes pleasure from the importance of man. She thinks when men lose their sexual strength, they become puppets at the hands of women. Thus men are defeated by women in the end. She gloats over it and begins to dance around the tree singing, "Take warning, masters, will scorch you in the end." Sidi then enters the scene and wants to know what Sadiko is celebrating. Sadiko makes her promise not to reveal the secret to anybody and tells her in a whisper that Beroka has lost his manhood. Sadiko's victory dance is dramatically very important. It moves the play into action. Question 18. Describe Lekunal's plan for a complete transformation of Illusion Lee. Answer. Illusion Lee represents Western values. He dreams of a time when his village will be completely modernized. He outlines his plans to Sadiko that he will abolish bride price so that women can enjoy equal rights. He wants to connect the village to the ways of the Western civilization by constructing motor roads in the village of Illusion Lee. The women of the village eat their food at clay pots, which are unhygienic. Lekuno will make the people conscious so that they buy saucepans instead of clay pots for women. He desires to put an end to the system of polygamy. He wants to develop the village so that the chief of the village rides cars instead of horses or at least bicycles. Cutting down trees of the bush, he plans to plan a modern park for lovers and to print daily newspapers with pictures of seductive girls. He expects that the girls of the village will win the beauty contest someday. Now their pastimes is playing Avo, a popular counting game played with seeds on a board with rows of depressions in it, and gossiping. But instead of that, they will arrange ball, a party of dancing, and throw cocktail party, a party at which alcoholic drinks are served. They reject palm wine and will take tea with milk and sugar. Thus, Lekuno hopes that the villagers will be modern in every sphere of life. Question 19. How does Baroka seduce Sidi? Answer. Baroka intends to marry Sidi. He sends his head wife, Sadiko, with a proposal of marriage to Sidi. She rejects the proposal on the grounds that he is too old for her. Sadiko then invites her to supper with Baroka. Sidi does not accept the invitation because every woman who has eaten supper with him one night becomes his wife or concubine the next night. But she falls prey to Baroka when she learns from Sadiko that he has lost his manhood. Thinking that Baroka is really important, Sidi decides to mock him. She goes to Baroka's palace and finds him engaged in a kind of wrestling bout for his daily exercise. Baroka is surprised to see her and tells her that he changes his wrestling after defeating them. He defeats the man in the wrestling bout and then engages in arm wrestling with him. Baroka defeats him again and Sidi is impressed by his strength and virility. In order to entice her, he tells her of his plans of modernizing the village, beginning with printing stamps with her photograph for postal and legal documentation purposes. Being delighted by his plan, her head falls slowly on his shoulder. Taking the advantage of it, he seduces her. Question 20. Describe the tense of Baroka's story. Answer. When Sidi comes to know from Sadiko that Baroka has lost his manhood, she decides to go to Baroka's palace and to mock him. Sadiko warns her of Baroka's cunning and Lekuno warns her of his savagery. Ignoring the warning, Sidi goes to ridicule Baroka and Lekuno is left with Sadiko. After the seduction scene, the scene cuts back to the village center where Lekuno is pacing in frustration. He's mad at Sadiko for tricking her to go to Baroka and at the same time fears that Baroka will harm her. At the time, a male dance enters, pursued by a number of young women. Sadiko steals a coin from Lekuno to pay them. In return, they drum her praises, but Sadiko claims that Lekuno was the real benefactor. The mummers then transfer their attention to Lekuno and begin to dance the Baroka story, showing him at his prime and his eventual downfall. In the dance, Baraka is made a comic figure. It shows how Baraka is respected by his wives in the prime of his life, and now how he is mocked and teased at the decline of his youth. Sadiko joins the mummers in the dance. Lekundal enjoys the spectacle and is pleased by the parts where they mock Baraka. This dance provides much comedy in the play. Thank you friends for watching my video.